Maybe you've heard the proverb that says, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Figuratively speaking, every week, many people are happy to get a fish, but during the week, they kind of languish. In this series, I'm attempting to try to give you practical ways that you can study the Bible for yourself. But before we get into those specifics, I want to firstly encourage you to do two things on a regular basis. Number one, read the Bible regularly. In the video's description below, I have a link to a program that will help you to read through the Bible in a year. I particularly like this program because not only do you read from the Old and the New Testament every day, something from the Gospels and something from the Psalms, but it even gives you a little bit of cushion in case you miss a few days. So instead of 30 or 31 days per month, there's only 25 days. And if you follow this program every day, you come away with some portion of scripture that's going to really stick it, fasten into your mind because of the way that it's structured. I really like it. It's free. We'd be happy to share it with you. Just click on the link below to get it. Now, you should read the Bible regularly because one of the benefits of doing that is that it gives you familiarity with the whole or the totality of Scripture. And that's important because as you want to become a better Bible student, as you study passages, the more familiar you are with the Bible, the easier it will be to use other passages, events, people, places, names that will help bring you a well-rounded picture of the subject matter that you're studying. The second habit that I want to encourage you to do is to study the Bible regularly. They're not the same. When you read, you are simply observing what is written. But when you study, you are ruminating, you are analyzing, you are breaking down, you are dissecting the passage. And your goal is really to do all of this to arrive at the author's originally intended meaning of that particular passage. And then, of course, to apply it to your own experience. I would say that the majority of Christians spend more time reading the Bible, but maybe not as much time studying the Bible. Now, I want you to know that if you're reading the Bible in our program, every day you'll read several chapters, and that's good. But when you study the Bible, I strongly urge you to take a much more quality over quantity approach. Let me read to you something that one Christian writer had to say. In the daily study, the verse by verse method is often the most helpful. Let the student take one verse and concentrate the mind on ascertaining the thought that God has put into that verse for him, and then dwell upon the thought until it becomes his own. One passage thus studied until its significance is clear is of more value than the perusal of many chapters with no definite purpose in view and no positive instruction gained. I don't know if you understand, but I've had the experience where I've tried to study a chapter or a big story or, maybe even a book. And the problem is that when you do that, you might come away with some points, but maybe you didn't dig as deep as you could have if you just took off a smaller chunk and really just worked that little piece until you really extracted as much spiritual nourishment as you could from that particular verse. So, this is why I urge you to read regularly, study regularly, read a decent amount, but study a small portion so that you really have an understanding of something in the passage. Maybe not everything, but as you push along, you'll eventually see the whole picture of what that particular passage is trying to say.